Welcome, everyone. Let's call the meeting to order. Welcome to City Council Business Meeting for Wednesday, November 17th, 2021. Let's rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Scrungy,
Present.
Councilwoman Riley is absent. Councilwoman Friedman,
Present.
Councilman Burns,
Present.
Councilman Strawn,
Present.
Councilman Scanlon,
Present.
and President Resnetti.
Present.
That's 6 here, 1 absent. Riley.
Thank you. We have the approval of the minutes. Councilman Squingy.
Thank you, Madam President. I stand and ask for unanimous approval for the meeting minutes from the November 3rd, 2021 business meeting.
All in
Second.
favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So let's move on to our public hearings. We have 2 public hearings tonight. So one for the annual action plan regarding the CDBG programs, and the other public hearing is regarding tonight's bonding legislation. Callers who are calling in should be discussing the particular item, and we'll let Mr. Clerk here, Lee, tell us a little bit about how folks can participate.
Yes, just quickly before we get to that, let the record show that Councilwoman Riley is in attendance. Okay, so we have 2 public hearings tonight. Those wishing to speak via Zoom, please click the raise hand button and leave it raised, and we will allow you to speak one by one. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes to address City Council on that particular public hearing and should state their full name and if they live or work in the city of Binghamton. So our first public hearing tonight is this. Binghamton City Council and the mayor will now hold a public hearing regarding permanent ordinance 21-60, which is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit the FY47 annual action plan and to accept any and all funds allocated by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development from the CDBG, ESG, and home entitlement programs. So those wishing to speak, just click the raise hand button for this public hearing.
Foolishness.
Okay, so there are no hands raised, so we're going to move on. The city's HUD administrator has asked the city council to leave this public hearing open until our next council business meeting, so we can continue to receive public input. So no need to close this public hearing just yet. No formal motion needed to close. And thank you. We'll have the clerk introduce our next public hearing.
Okay, so our second public hearing tonight. Binghamton City Council and the mayor will now hold a public hearing regarding Introductory Ordinance 21-135 entitled Bond Ordinance of the City of Binghamton, authorizing the construction of various improvements to Morabido Stadium to comply with the mandates of Major League Baseball, stating the estimated maximum cost of $2,750,000. And those wishing to speak can click the raise hand button and leave it raised, and we'll allow you to speak one by one. And our first speaker for this public hearing is Tariq Abdullah.
Good evening. At current, I
encourage the council to vote down this ordinance because there has been no explanation provided as to what the detailed expenses are. The last time there was millions of dollars of both state and local tax dollars invested in the stadium. It was over $5 million. And the mayor said that it was to meet requirements by the league. Turns out that when the letter from the president of the league was actually discovered, there were only two requirements. It was the scoreboard and the sound system. There was nothing else enumerated in that letter, but yet they spent $5 million on multiple other luxury amenity items. Now we see the same thing, another 2.75 million, again, to comply with mandates. What are those mandates? Where is the letter that itemizes the deficiencies of the stadium that must be addressed? I think without providing that information to the public, it's incredibly irresponsible for the council to move forward with this bond ordinance. And I hope that before this is voted on, both the letter that the mayor continues to cite identifies these mandated deficiencies or addressing these deficiencies, that the letter is made public and exactly what is going to be done is made public and very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. If anyone else would like to speak on this public hearing, please raise your hand. Next, we have Tina Chronopoulos. We'll allow them to speak now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Forgive me, I have a cold. My name is Tina Chronopoulos. I live on Laurel Avenue, and I am here to ask that City Council vote no on this stadium upgrade. My concern is that it looks like that money from the general fund may be used here, and we know that the general fund was recently filled with ARPA money. But even if I am wrong about that, I would like to ask why it is that we are spending $2.5 million to please this baseball league when there are so many other things that the city of Binghamton needs. And I am sort of dismayed at the lack of coordination between the city and the university. We know that the university received $60 million for a baseball stadium on campus. You know, surely there are ways to collaborate in a way. I don't know, maybe there could have been work conversations that could have taken place to make that happen. And so now we're going to keep pumping in money to a stadium that is basically outdated for, you know, for renovations or updates that aren't actually exactly delineated. I think it would be really good if it could be made clear what exactly needs to happen for the stadium to be updated. And that is all I have to say on this. Thanks for your time.
Okay, if anyone else would like to speak on this public hearing regarding the bond ordinance, please click the raise hand button.
Okay, so if there are no hands raised, we can move on. I'll entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
Motion. Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so now we're going to move up to our public comments. Speakers have 5 minutes to discuss city issues, and I ask you to please be respectful. Or could you let folks know how they can participate?
Yes, so if you'd like to participate in public comment tonight through Zoom, please click the raised hand button and leave it raised. And we'll give you 5 minutes to address city council on city issues. And each speaker should state their full name and if they live or work in the city of Binghamton. Our first speaker is Tariq Abdulzam.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm calling to share the most recent exhibits of why we have a broken, outdated, inequitable, unfair property assessment system that burdens our homeowners and our mom and pop landlords who rent to non-students. Over the course of 6 weeks in July and August, 6 properties were sold, 2 of them to a foreign limited liability corporation, not a domestic, a foreign LLC, and 4 more to the same downstate New York-based equity firm that made a nearly 11 million play on the west side, gobbling up 33 student rental properties and 1 downtown property. You need to hear these numbers. 123 Court Street, which has 54 student beds, was sold for $4.7 million. The assessment is $500,000. It's paying taxes on it. It's just absurd. It was sold for 9 times the assessed value. 60 Henry Street and 22 Washington, purchased by the same equity firm, Stonebridge Property Group. They were sold together for $6.2 million. Their total assessed value on the books is $1 million. So now that's 6 times. So 6 times and 9 times the assessed values. 215 State Street, same equity firm, 1.8 million. All of these in July and August. The assessed property is $205,000. 9 times the assessment. If you look at the 2 that were purchased by the foreign limited liability corporation, 116 Front Street, the old Ridley Lowell building, on August 12th, it was sold for $2.176 million. The assessed value is $383,000. 20 Front Street sold for $910,000. The assessed value is $136,000. Folks, we have a massive problem here, and continued negligence by city leaders is complicit in burdening homeowners and mom and pop landlords who rent to non-students. I need to share something with you. I did a quick analysis. If just these 6 properties were reassessed at 75% of their most recent sale price, right? What the market deems their value at. So if we were to just change their assessment to 75% of that, you would bring in $392,000 more in tax revenue. 6 properties. That is not $392,000 that we would then spend. That would go into a bucket called tax relief that would then be distributed to other property owners. That is what a reassessment does. If we were collecting 36 million in property taxes this year, after a reassessment, you would still collect $36 million. So if 6 properties would contribute $392,000 to the tax relief bucket, just imagine how much tax relief you could provide to predominantly homeowners in the city of Binghamton, but you don't. Now, I know the mayor didn't care for that because he's a real estate guy. These are a lot of his buddies. I would not be surprised if he's invested in this equity firm because they're silent investors. The fact that some of the council members still don't care to entertain the financial ethics disclosure forms a practice that promotes transparency and accountability in government,
You have 1 minute.
ensures ethics in government, similar to what Broome County does, makes me start to wonder that maybe this is all connected. Are council members invested in these equity firms? Maybe that's why you don't want to pass disclosure forms. Maybe that's why you don't care about a reassessment, because a reassessment would hurt your returns. It's not unreasonable for me to ask these questions when a system is so broken, the evidence is so clear that continued negligence raises a great deal of suspicion. You are complicit in promoting and perpetuating a system that harms our homeowners. You have the chance to provide significant tax relief, and you're doing nothing. Have a good day.
Our next speaker is Tina Chronopoulos.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My name is Tina Chronopoulos. I live on Laurel Avenue. As usual, there's a lot to talk about and not enough time to do it. I can't help but be not surprised actually by what the previous speaker just talked about. And I'm also curious to know as to why you continue not to deal with that particular issue as a council. Anyway, just very quickly, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Water Street parking garage situation, specifically this board of directors that the mayor is going to put in place. I did a little research. Basically, what we have is just a bunch of dudes, 4 dudes basically, who are good at kowtowing to the mayor, good at spending taxpayer money, basically like it's candy, right? Like it's not your own, and good at working behind closed doors, ultimately only pro-business, not really pro-residents, local people who don't own businesses. I'm also dismayed to see that ARPA money is going to be used for this project. We don't need luxury housing in Binghamton. You know the numbers. You have been told the numbers of how many people in Binghamton are homeless, how many people in Binghamton are living in precarious housing situations, how many people are unable to get adequate housing. And here you are in public, brazen. You don't even care, voting for these kinds of projects that are going to, basically construct housing that is going to be marketed as luxury and makes it unaffordable for the average person who lives in Binghamton. And I've said it here again, and I'm going to probably have to say it in the future. You do realize that Binghamton is one of the poorest cities in the state per the census. Like, I'm not even pulling that out of thin air. Binghamton is poorer than Utica. Binghamton is poorer than Rochester and Syracuse. And here you are just wildly spending taxpayer money on these bijou boutique projects. You don't care about the people who live here. Anyway, let me just quickly pivot to what happened 2 weeks ago when a couple of people from the community were asking questions about the way that Dr. Angela Riley and her colleague Aviva Friedman are treated on this council. I in particular was sort of pointing out that the blatant sexism, misogyny, and racism that I see at play. And a beautiful display, like you couldn't have done it better, and a beautiful display of sexism and misogyny. Tom Scanlon and Joe Burns, you joined him. You came out and you said, "Wah, wah, wah. These people are making accusations, personal attacks on members of council." I'm sorry, these are not personal attacks. You show us your racism and your sexism and misogyny clearly in the way that you behave, the way that you ask questions, the way that you call foul when one of your own is quote unquote attacked. but don't support members of the own party. This is not a personal attack. I think if you're a publicly elected official, I think you need to be held accountable. So I hope that you can maybe grow a bit of a thicker skin. In particular, when it comes to what I said in the meeting last week, I wasn't making accusations when I was asking Sophia Resiniti about whether
You
or
have 1
not
minute left.
she lied. I was asking questions. I'm not accusing. If you feel that you've been accused, then maybe you've got something to feel bad about, you know? Let me read from an email that I received from the city when I was asking about one of my FOIL requests. This is what I got in the email. When Ms. Resiniti was presented with your FOIL, she stated that she had not used her personal email or personal Facebook page to conduct city business. The city is not aware of any evidence to the contrary, and as a result, her private communications on those platforms are not subject to disclosure. So is it that Sophia Resiniti is also lying to the city and the city's lawyers? And only when I was actually able to find a name of somebody who I knew had communicated with her directly that she felt compelled to release her records? This is a question. I'm not accusing.
Your time is up. Thank you. If there are any other speakers, you can click the raise hand button and we'll allow you to speak.
Okay. Looks like there are no hands raised, correct me? And so we're going to move on into our legislation for tonight. Excuse me, we have 3 items on second read. The first item is Introductory Ordinance 21-123, considered in finance with Councilman Strong. Councilman?
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam President. I ask Council for unanimous consideration of Introductory Ordinance 21-123, an ordinance to amend the 2021 capital budget to allocate American Rescue Plan Act funds for water and sewer line improvements.
Second.
Any questions? Councilman Friedman. I think you had your hand up first.
Thank you, Madam President. This was held over because so just to lay out my perception of the timeline of things. First of all, we have been asking for an overall plan of how ARPA money is going to be spent for months, right? And part of this was that when we were talking about the water and sewer line improvements, I don't want to speak for other people. I think we all agree that some of these pipes are very old and they absolutely need to be repaired. And also that functioning water and sewer lines are necessary at any time, but especially during a pandemic where hand washing and contamination are huge concerns. We were notified, let me pull up this email earlier today. Let's see, at what time was it? All of a sudden, we got an update that we are not allowed to be privy to the pipes that need to be repaired. That I don't know. This is weird. This feels like we're not getting information that we need on this. And how many times do we have this same conversation about this? So I don't know. I support repairing water and sewer lines that need it. But like a lot of the ARPA money, it feels shady to me. You know, my belly buzzer's going off. That's what my friend tells their daughter, to pay attention to your belly buzzer. So I don't like approving huge amounts of money to be spent when we don't have information about what it's going to. I don't know. I'm kind of stuck here. So I don't know. I'm curious to hear other people's thoughts on this. Apparently someone else's hand was raised as well. I can't see, but I'm curious to hear what others' thoughts are.
Thank you. I think Councilman Riley, you had your hand up, right?
Absolutely. Thank you, Council President. I stand in agreement with Councilwoman Friedman. Here we are again. About to vote on legislation when we've been asking for basic information about how decisions and how we will prioritize the work that we are spending millions of dollars on. Millions. And I've asked for this information for the past 2 to 3, well, I'll say 2 work sessions. Yesterday, it was discovered, because we had our work session on a Tuesday due to technical glitches, that no one had received the information. So our clerk, Lease, sent an email to Chuck. I then clarified the email to Chuck, and at 4:21 this evening, before the vote is to be cast, we receive an email stating, I did make a statement about sending the information. However, after conversing with the mayor, he does not want to release a tool we use to assist in managing the infrastructure of the city. Now, as fiduciary agents, as elected officials, if we cannot be trusted to handle information when it is deemed confidential, then there's a problem. If we cannot be trusted to have the information to at least understand how we are prioritizing the spend of this money, that is a problem. And yet we come to these meetings every single week saying the same thing about not having access to information. Where are the other council members? And where is the response to not having this information? Are you okay with allocating resources that you just don't know how the money will be spent? What if the entire ARPA budget is being spent on the east side? Not to say that the east side is not a valuable portion of the city, but we all have areas within our districts that need to be remedied. But we don't have a clue as to what is going to be done. Chuck mentioned that this assessment or evaluation was done prior to many of our terms on council. So we should have the information, period. Give us the assessment. If it was done by one of the external agencies, show us the report. You don't have to give us the final plan if it's so secretive, although we're a legislative body, but we need something. Now, let me also make this very clear. I'm not opposed to spending money for infrastructure. That's what ARPA is for. I'm not opposed to spending money to improve our sewers and our pipes, because we need that to live safely in our homes, to conduct business. What I am opposed to is the lack of transparency and the ability for seated and elected council members to have information to make decisions on behalf of our representative, on behalf of our constituents. And that is what I'm tired of. That is why I'm saying no today, because we are done begging for information and asking to be invited to the table that we've already been elected to. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah.
Councilman Burns.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Regarding the letter from the mayor, I understand the logic of not telling a street that they're going to have their street done, and then emergency shows up in the wintertime, and then that street that we promised to be done isn't going to be done. And I understand that we've budgeted already the infrastructure for the for the sewers and the streets for next year. But this request for the ARPA funds was almost like an emergency has happened. Therefore, we need this money right away, more money. And now it appears that there is no emergency and that the money is just going to be thrown into the general fund for, into the budget of streets, so that, we'll get more streets done, which is great. We get more streets done, but we should just say we're doing that instead of making it look like, oh, we need more money. Like something happened up by Ross Park recently, where maybe that's where the money's going. I'm not sure if that's where the money was going. It's on, I being on the south side would say it is an emergency. It wasn't in the budget. The street had just been done last year and it wasn't apparently done completely properly. So now it's coming apart, the infrastructure underneath. But it is, I think that it's just not right that we're not told, just tell us that you're going to use the money the way you're going to use it, instead of making it look like we have to approve this emergency money. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Someone call the question? Can someone call the question?
Call the question, Madam President.
Thank you. Question be called. Roll call, please.
Okay, Councilman Scaringi. Councilman Scaringi, can you hear us?
Lee, my apologies. My audio was going in and out there for the last minute or so. I apologize. I don't know if there was more comment or if the question was called. I'm sorry about that.
Yes, so the question was called on Introductory Ordinance 21-123. And,
Yes.
Are you ready to vote?
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry if you
Okay.
started with the roll call.
So, yes, Councilman Scaringi.
Aye, I apologize.
No problem. Thank you. Councilwoman Riley,
Nay.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Nay.
Councilman Burns,
Nay.
Councilman Strong,
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
and President Resnetti.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, 3 nays. The nays were Riley, Friedman, and Burns.
Okay, on to the next item on second read, introductory ordinance 21-127, considered finance. Councilman Strawn.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask council for unanimous consideration of introductory ordinance 21-127, an ordinance establishing the city of Binghamton Water Street Development Corporation.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilwoman Friedman.
Thank you, Madam President. I am going to pretty much reiterate the concerns that I brought up at the last business meeting that have not been addressed to my satisfaction. Specifically, I don't feel comfortable approving legislation that have specific directors by name in here. It seems like we haven't even created this development corporation, and yet it has 5 members on it already. I think that it seems imbalanced that city council gets only 1 appointment to this corporation. There's also nothing in here in writing about the length of the term. So this seems kind of premature to me. It feels like we haven't really fleshed it out, but we got a group of people together and, well, not we, the mayor got a group of people together because there are 1, 2, 3, 4 appointments here, and just said, okay, this is who I want on the corporation. And I don't really understand if there's people by name in here and we approve this, Are they members of this corporation in perpetuity? Especially given that there's no language specifying the length of the term. So I did bring this up at the work session. I know it was the work session was supposed to be on Monday. It ended up being yesterday. But I did bring up this concern at the last work session as well. I don't feel comfortable voting on this legislation as it exists right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councilwoman Riley.
Thank you, Council President. Again, here I am. I might as well make a recording. I agree with Councilwoman Freeman. And she did send language today, as per the request of the council body last night, to amend this legislation. So I'm sure all council members had an opportunity to read it, since she did say she would do it last night. And I believe Councilwoman Freeman can go ahead and make a motion to amend the legislation as written.
Point of information, am I able to do that because this is second read legislation?
Councilwoman, this is Maggie. You can make the motion, but this legislation does need to be voted on tonight.
Oh, okay. I would be happy to make a motion in that case, but I'll wait my turn.
So then we need a second. Right?
Second.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go.
So did
You have to
did
make
she-
an amendment.
Councilwoman, you have to make
Yeah,
the
you have to
motion
make the
first.
Right.
Right, and I can read it into the record, the language that I did send. So I make a motion to amend introductory ordinance 21-127 as follows. Add to clause 3, the term of the directors shall be 3 years, and delete clause 4 and replace it with the following. The mayor will appoint 3 members as the directors of the corporation. The majority party on city council will appoint 1 director of the corporation, and the minority party on city council will appoint 1 director of the corporation.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Okay.
Madam President?
Councilman Swearingen, is that you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Point of information, I don't know if court counsel can step in on this. So the BLDC type body that is being established here for the purposes of the project. Oh, hey, Ken, how are you? Good evening. That is sunset at the end of the project. Is that correct?
Correct. Well, it wouldn't have a purpose anymore. It has a limited purpose.
Right. So the length of the body.
But it's not the length of construction. It's the length of the operation of the
Right.
of the parking garage.
Can you add any, Ken, forgive me, can you add any substance on that with in relation to time, post-construction, what that chronologically looks like? I know you can't put a number with respect to time, but maybe on a substantive level, what are some of the things that are associated with that beyond the construction period?
Well, it still has to operate and you're still paying the expenses and you're paying off the bond. So the city will be leasing it during that time period. And at the conclusion of the lease, i.e. when it's paid for in its entirety, it would go back to the city. So that would be the duration of the LDC.
Right. And the length of the bond was, I think.
I assume it's 30 years.
Yeah.
But I don't know the answer to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so then we need,
Yeah, one second.
go ahead, Councilman Burns.
Yeah, thanks. I'd just like to, BLDC was mentioned. I'd just like to point out that the BLDC does have a member of each party on the board. And I think that would be appropriate for this. Thanks.
Thank you. So there's no other discussion. Oh, Councilwoman Riley?
Yes, I did also just want to add that this body would be the agency overseeing and managing, conducting business, and thus the appointees that have already been put on the document prior to the amendment as proposed would be responsible. And so I think it would be prudent for us to have a body of representatives that reflect the composition of council. And that's why I, again, support the minority and majority party participants. Thank you.
Okay, there's no more discussion. We'll need a roll call on the proposed amendment.
Madam President,
Councilman Scringy, yes.
I apologize. So with a makeup of 5 members of the board, and I apologize, maybe this is another question for Corp Counsel. At least by proposed design, rather, I should say, as it stands right now. So with 4 being mayoral appointees and 1 being a council appointee, when a new mayor gets elected, that new mayor can appoint new people or council as well. Is that correct or not correct, or how would that logistically work?
Well, if the terms are 3 years, then after 3 years, there'll be reappointments.
Correct. So are the terms 3 years?
Typically, what would happen is the first board of directors would adopt bylaws that would have a lot of those issues in it. But you can certainly include in this, if people decide to do it, to include 3 years. The BLDC, all that's in the bylaws, which is adopted by the first group of the board of directors.
And may I just add as a point of information that the codifying the term of 3 years is within the amendment that I proposed. So it's 2 clauses. One is defining the length of the term as 3 years, and the other one is the makeup of the appointments.
So I would argue, so if I can ask, what is the rationale behind 3 years? Why that number?
That's a good question. To be honest, I came up with 3 years because I believe that when I asked when I brought up the concern that there were no term limits, I think somebody threw out, maybe it was Ken, I don't remember who, somebody said, oh, typically these terms are 3 years long, or that, that's a common number. I'm not married to the number 3 years. I just felt like that was pretty typical. And I believe that somebody said that number.
Because it would seem, and again, Madam President, it would seem to me that if we're going to scale a number, it would seem to me that to do it appropriately would be that they shouldn't be 3-year terms, but that they should be 4-year terms, given that those are the years in which the respective branches that appoint those members fall under. Right. And I guess we could also technically say the council representative or the proposed council representative could be staggering on a 4-year level as well. Right. I mean, if we're going to get that technical about it, it also seems to me that in part that if term limits, which I fully support, if that is a bylaw thing, then it would seem to me that the body and the members that are going to encompass that body should probably have a part of that discussion as well, considering, again, with the BLDC, right? So to answer the question that came up in the discussion about this at the last meeting, the reason why this is not in the city charter in relation to the BLDC is because, as Corp Counsel just correctly pointed out, it's in the bylaws, right? So the board of directors takes care of that at their first meeting, which I mean, I know I can speak to with my community involvement and stuff, whether it's nonprofits or sitting on boards. I mean, that's a pretty standardized thing as it relates to boards. I mean, that is not uncommon. That is very, very common. So I'm just trying to understand the rationale of 3, and I appreciate Councilwoman Friedman that you're saying, number you came up with, you're not inherently sold to it, which is great. I'm just saying, if we're going to go down that, it would seem to me, because kind of by design, if 4 members, again, by the proposed design, if 4 members are selected, appointed by the mayor, and 1 is appointed by city council, by definition, there's a term limit framework already. So, and again, I'm not saying I'm opposed to not codifying something. I'm just saying there is a general framework in that already.
So Councilman Scringy, to clarify, I agree with you on the 4 years. I think that makes sense. So it's like it lines up with the terms. So with the appointed positions, then are you saying that the membership of the board of directors would terminate when the appointing elected officials term is over?
Yeah, I mean, it could just follow the same level. I mean, it doesn't have to, but I'm just saying that in and of itself, because they are appointees of all 8 elected officials within the city, by definition, there already is a broad framework. Like it's built in just by the system. We don't have to follow that, but I'm just saying that is already a platform to bounce off of.
Yeah, I would be open to that. If, I would be happy to rescind my motion if you would like to make a motion to amend in that way. I think the thing that I feel strongly about is codifying a term limit, whatever that is. And I think it makes sense what you're saying, 4 years, and the appointment to the board of directors goes along with the term of the elected officials who have appointed those people. And the other thing that I felt strongly about is having more of a balance, more of a variety in terms of where the appointments come from. But, if you would like to make a motion to create the term limits as you have described, I would be happy to rescind my motion and support yours.
I'd be happy to consider that. Thank you. Sorry, Madam President. I know Councilwoman Riley has her hand up and some others. Just to get feedback, obviously, from colleagues before, but sure. Thank you.
Councilwoman Riley.
Thank you, Council President. Again, this would have been a lively discussion yesterday. I think we have several boards, several agencies, several committees under our charge in the city government that have different term limits. We have CDAC, I'm sorry, for example, that is every 2 years, every year, I'm not sure, but it doesn't have to be consistent. What we can do in our language is draft that we are recommending a 1-year term to start and allow the bylaws be drafted so that term limits will be appropriate and not to exceed 4 years. So we can make it broad enough in our language to give them the authority to draft something that fits all of our liking, but understanding that these people that are on there, we don't know what terms they've been given. Right now, we don't know anything except for the fact that there are people listed in a document that have agreed to serve. So we need language. It does not have to be specific language, but we can draft language to give the authority of determining the terms to that governing body.
Madam President, just to follow up with that, Councilwoman Riley, again, because their first meeting would be with the board of directors, if we don't touch this, they're members of the board. By definition, they already have that authority. So there's nothing to grant there. Again, like Ken Frank pointed out with the BLDC, right? That was in their bylaws because that is what a board does when they are established. So there's no authority.
But as the
Yeah,
governing body, we can give language to guide the drafting of the bylaws.
right. But that's separate from giving them the authority to do so. I'm not talking about that part. I'm speaking to the point that you made about the authority. They would already have that authority. But yes,
Oh,
I do agree.
understand Board of
Yeah,
Directors.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm responding to what you said earlier. But yeah, we can give guidance language, sure.
all right, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt earlier. I thought you were done. Thank you. Is there any more discussion? Okay, so then we will move forward with roll call on the proposed amendment, correct? It's-
I,
Councilwoman, if you want to change your terms, you have to withdraw your motion
right.
and make a new one.
Okay, so I withdraw the current motion on the floor. I would like to make a new motion to amend this legislation to add under or add to clause 3 that the term of the directors shall be 4 years and coincide with the terms of the elected officials who appoint them. And I would also like to delete clause 4 as it exists now and replace clause 4 with the following. The mayor will appoint 3 members as the directors of the corporation. The majority party on city council will appoint 1 director of the corporation, and the minority party on city council will appoint 1 director of the corporation.
We'll need a second.
Second,
Okay, so now we can go ahead, excuse me, and do roll call on the proposed amendment.
Are there any, Madam President, are there any thoughts from anyone else regarding any of this in general? As it relates to time or anything like that?
I didn't see anybody raise their hand when I said any other discussion or question, so I'm going to assume no. Thank you. Roll call, please.
wait, I do have another question.
Oh,
We
go
are,
ahead.
and remember, if these people are appointed under this mayor, that means their term would end at the end of this mayor's term, per the language that was just quoted. And the remaining bodies would be 2 years because we have 2 years left under our term. Well, yes. So just clarifying. Thank you.
Councilwoman Friedman.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, Councilwoman Riley, that's a good point. And I would also like to reiterate that as it exists now, outside of this motion, clause 4 is, I believe clause 4 lists the names specifically of the mayor's appointees. So my motion proposes to delete clause 4 so there would be no listed appointees. If this motion is approved, there will be nobody listed by name in this legislation.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Riley.
No, I just wanted to thank her for clarifying.
okay,
that.
okay.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Okay. Roll call on the proposed amendment, please.
Okay. This is a roll call on the proposed amendment. So Councilman Scaringi,
Nay.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Strawn,
Nay.
Councilman Scanlon,
Nay.
President Rosnetti. Okay, so that is 3 ayes, 4 nays. The nays were Scaringi, Strawn, Scanlon, and Rosnetti. So that amendment fails.
Madam President,
legislation.
well, there's still discussion on the legislation.
Yes.
Okay. So I personally do not have a problem with the names being present. But I'm still open to hear any other colleagues regarding the time variance if they have an opinion about it.
Anyone have any comments? Councilman Freeman?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm wondering from a legal standpoint, if we have names of people in legislation, this is not bylaws or appointments on the city website. If we have people by name in this legislation and no term limits, does that imply that these people are on this corporation board of directors in perpetuity?
No, it just means they're the ones that are going to make that determination as part of the bylaws.
So they could say that they are on, they could appoint themselves, or not appoint, that's not the right word. They could then get on the board and say, our terms last forever, if they wanted to do that.
Yep.
Could they make themselves permanent appointees?
Correct, that's what I'm asking.
I've never seen that anywhere in any bylaws by anyone. I don't think that that would be permitted. But I can't tell you definitively, if suddenly they gave themselves permanency, I suspect it would come back to a city council.
Okay, so I'm confused as to why we're not setting these guidelines now. Everything else in this piece of legislation lays out, what the board does, how it's how it's created, and like other specifics. So it just seems, I'm just surprised to hear my colleagues not want to weigh in on this and not want to establish term limits or anything. I don't know. This feels like weird to me. I'm surprised that nobody else wants to weigh in on this.
And
Madam President, can I say
Scanlon,
something? Oh, go ahead.
I think Councilman Scanlon had his hand up for a while.
He did.
We'll come back to you, Mr. Sean.
He did.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. I haven't been on many boards in my career. Nobody in their right mind is going to appoint themselves to a board endlessly. That's not going to happen. Number two, since it's a new board, it makes a lot of sense to me to let the board determine if it's 3 years or 4 years or 2 years. That makes sense to me to let this board determine that. So I'm not sure why we're still discussing this, to tell you the truth. Thank you.
Councilman Strawn, go ahead.
My only question is from a functional matter, back to the time of this where it really is practical and matters. I mean, isn't it more of almost a moot point after the construction is done though? Like, isn't this more just a pro forma like body? Is this, I don't know if I know in perpetuity is this body, it's not like the BLDC where there's constant ins and outs and changes being made and new programs being funded and loans being done and financial statements being done. Am I right or wrong about that?
Yes, since they're leasing it to the city is going to operate it. So there's not going to be much for the LDC to do after construction is complete.
Right. So I mean, to me, in some ways, the construction period is really the important part. After that, it's we might not even get anybody that wants to serve on it because the board's really not going to be doing anything. So to me, the long term over course of time isn't really doesn't practically matter, quite frankly. So I'm okay with whatever terms, whether we go with prescribing something or as Councilman Scanlon just said, let the board do it. I think there probably should be some limit just so it's not just obvious that they're in perpetuity, but I don't think from a practical matter, it's going to matter.
Can I just throw in that if you're talking about any kind of limit, remember most of our boards, you can renew. So you could have 2-year term limits and somebody be on the same board for 30 years. That's not unusual.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, would someone call the
Madam-
question?
Madam President.
Councilman Squirinji, yes?
All right, so I understand the time dynamic, and I appreciate both what Councilman Scanlon and Councilman Strawn said. I get both. I have no problem letting the board decide that for themselves, but I also am not against the idea of at least providing some guidance. So I'm going to make an amendment to add the sentence to section 3 after now therefore, the board members will serve a term of no longer than 4 years to be decided by the board of directors.
Councilman, just if you're doing that, the question is it a renewable term?
Yes, it should be a renewable term. Yes. So the board members will serve a term no more than 4 years, which can be, I guess, what would be the right term here, Ken?
Which may be renewed.
Yeah, which may be renewed. So the board members will serve terms of no longer than 4 years, which may be renewable.
I'll second.
And then at that point, they can make a decision of, it can be 4 years, it could be 3 years, it could be 2 years, it could be 1 year, it could be 90 days, but they can do up to 4 years. And I think that's a reasonable balance with all of the concerns we've raised.
Thank you, Councilman Squirinji. There's no more discussion. I will
Call the question on the amendment of the
Thank you.
discussion of the amendment, Madam President.
we'll do roll call on the proposed amendment.
Okay, Councilman Squirinji,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Strawn,
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
President Rusnetti.
Aye.
That's 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Madam President, if there's no further discussion,
I see,
I'll call.
thank you.
Go ahead.
Hang on one
Sorry.
second, Councilman Squirinji. I see Councilwoman Riley's hand.
Yes.
My apologies.
No worries. This is Councilwoman Riley. Now that we've separated the two sections, again, as I proposed when we received the legislation, the mayor is part of the majority party. The council is the majority party would make the decision. Are we not interested in discussing two appointments so both parties are represented on this board? And that's a question for everyone around the table.
Madam President, if I may.
Go ahead, Councilman Squirinji.
I appreciate that point, and at the expense of being blunt, I really could care less about what letter is after the last name of the mayor or any of my 6 colleagues on this body. The council appointee is a council appointment. It is our collective appointment, and respectfully speaking, the mayor has nothing to do with it. So I'm fine with the way that is.
Councilman Freeman, go ahead. Councilman Freeman, you had your hand
Oh.
up, correct?
Yes, I did. I'm sorry
ahead.
you cut out for a second. Thank you, Madam President. I have said this before, and while I appreciate the sentiment, Councilman Scringy, it rarely works out that way. Whenever there's a split vote, I can literally only remember one time when it was not down party lines, or rather when any of the, when there was a mix of Republicans and Democrats voting yes and no on a piece of legislation. So while I wish that I could feel confident in saying it's a council appointment, I can't see a situation where the majority party isn't going to get their way. And I think that it's not about, oh, I want my way, I'm upset because nobody's listening to me, but our constituents are represented by a diverse body. And while I agree with you, party affiliation doesn't necessarily mean everything about the way that somebody votes or their values or anything like that, in allowing an appointment from both parties, you allow for more diverse voices to be represented. And I mean, it's hard enough for a city of 40,000 people to choose 7 who they think are going to represent every single person in the city, which we know is impossible. This to me seems to be a simple way where council, instead of getting 1 appointment, they get 2 appointments. So it's more balanced in a multitude of ways. And I wish it could be, I wish I could feel confident that if there was only 1 council appointment, that my constituents would be accurately represented by that 1 appointment, but experience has told me that it just generally does not work out that way, that if we have mayor appointments and 1 council appointment, it's going to be a monopoly.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
If this is
Councilman Strawn.
If this is stupid, go ahead and tell me so. Is the council appointment one of us, or is it anybody that we decide to appoint, or either or?
On the current BLDC, council appoints, there are 13 directors. Council has 2 that they appoint, and it's usually council members, right, who sit. But you could appoint anybody.
Right. I
Madam
mean,
President.
going off of the appointments that are listed by name in here, assuming we're not amending that, none of those are current council or current, none of the mayor's appointments are elected officials, is what I was trying to say.
There's no more discussion. Can someone call the question?
Does the original amendment need to be changed with respect to the fact that the legislation was amended? Point of order.
No, right now you have legislation as amended. This is just a second proposed amendment.
Thank you.
The
Someone call a question, please.
The amendment was not moved and seconded, though.
So
The 2-party. I didn't make a motion to bring that back to the floor.
Yeah, this is just general discussion right now
Just
on the
discussion.
amendment.
Right.
Point of order. Madam President.
Councilman Burns, is that you?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If we went ahead with an amendment where we would have both parties, don't we then have to have another member? Doesn't the board have to have an odd number? For their own votes?
Yes. Point of
Or-
information, Madam President, Councilman Burns is correct.
Point
That-
of
that-
information. As it was drafted by Councilwoman Friedman, it would take away one of the appointees from the mayor and then have one per party.
Okay, thanks.
That's correct also, yeah.
So before I make this a motion to amend again, I just want to hear, I mean, if it's not going to go, if you guys are not in support of it, then it's no need to make the motion. Again, this could have been discussed yesterday, but we're here. I mean, is everyone on board with that? Or is everyone pretty much okay with council choosing one body, one person?
Madam President, I'm fine with the one.
Okay.
Didn't we just vote on, I don't understand. Did we just vote on this like a couple minutes ago?
We voted on
No.
a comprehensive amendment with two parts. We just voted on another amendment with one part. And now I'm questioning adding a second amendment with a separate part. Councilman
Scanlon, I think you have your hand up.
I believe if amendments want to be made, they should be made, and then we'll vote on it. I'm not sure where we are now. If amendments should be made, let's make it without doing a straw poll here. Let's just make an amendment. Then we'll vote on it.
So is there a motion to make an amendment?
I'm going to make the motion. I'm trying to find the language. Give me 1 second. Councilman Friedman, do you have that language in front of you?
Yes, I do.
For the
I'm
second?
happy to make the motion if you would like me to.
Thank you, please.
Yeah, of course. Okay, I make a motion to amend clause 4 to add, the mayor will appoint 3 members as the directors of the corporation. The majority party on city council will appoint 1 director of the corporation, and the minority party on city council will appoint 1 director of the corporation.
Second.
Oh, excuse me. Roll call on the proposed amendment.
Okay. Councilman Scaringi,
Nay.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Strawn,
Nay.
Councilman Scanlon,
Nay.
and President Rossetti.
Nay.
Okay, so that is 3 ayes, 4 nays. The nays were Scaringi, Strawn, Scanlon, and Resnetti.
Okay, so now we're back to as amended. We need to vote on this now as amended.
That's what I was talking about earlier.
Okay, so I'll just reread it as amended.
Yes.
I ask council for unanimous consideration of introductory ordinance 21-127 as amended, an ordinance establishing the city of Binghamton Water Street Development Corporation. As amended.
Second.
Any discussion?
Call the question, Madam President.
Question for Paul? Roll call, please.
Councilman Scaringi,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Nay.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Nay.
Councilman Burns,
Yes, I just want to say that as much as I respect Chris Papistrat, Richard Bucci, Ron Saul, and Chuck Shager, I have no doubt that they would always do what's right for the city of Binghamton. I'm going to vote nay because I just feel that, you know, the Democrats and Republicans, we should be working together. And it doesn't appear that the Democratic Party and the people that we represent are represented on this. So I vote nay.
Councilman Strawn,
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
President Rossetti.
Aye.
That's 4 ayes, 3 nays, Riley, Friedman, Burns.
Thank you. Next, we have introductory resolution 21-90, considering finance. Councilman Strawn.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask council for unanimous consideration of introductory resolution 21-90, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Broome County Land Bank for the Affordable Homes Program.
Any discussion? I'm not sure which one of you had your hand up. We'll go with Councilwoman Riley.
Thank you, Council President Rezzanetti. As I shared via email per our conversation yesterday and our conversations individually with just of the Broome Land Bank, Broome County Land Bank, I think it's important that we as funding agents talk about our priorities. And we consistently over and over talk about making sure all of our residents are able to pursue home ownership. We do understand the land bank in its current structure has done great things. I'm one of their biggest cheerleaders. But my idea, or some of our constituents' idea, is to use them again as a mentor to guide new ideas and reimagine projects here in Binghamton. Yes, it's a heavy lift, but there is no deadline. And what I mentioned during the work session was that we would like at least 5% of this award to be committed to funding permanently affordable home ownership opportunities. Not, again, saying that they create a new avenue for themselves, but again, working with agencies locally to ensure this can be done using exemplars across the country. I think this is important that we collectively support such ideas in our communities. So I'm going to make a motion that we amend this introductory resolution with the clause, at least 5% of this award must be committed to fund permanently affordable home ownership opportunities.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any discussion of the amendment? Oh, Councilman Strawn, was that a hand?
Yeah, I just want to say that I don't, and I apologize, I responded to the email late right before the meeting. I agree with the idea that we should pursue this, but I think to do this in right now with this is setting up a 5% of this money to not be put in play, because Jessica has told us that right now the land bank can't do what we're going to ask them to do. So I think we should do it on a separate path or with another organization that can, or and Jessica even told me today she's open to talking about this down the road, which I thought was good. But and she was being honest, at least with me. She's like, they're not prepared and not set up. And she said, for instance, Syracuse Land Bank has 15 employees. The Broome County Land Bank, or I'm sorry, I should say Onondaga County, I think, or maybe it's Syracuse, has 15 employees. We have, our Broome County Land Bank has 1, and that's her. So she's asked us to, and she even said it's not a bad idea, but their organization is not prepared or able to handle that right now. So we're setting up 5% of this money to not to fail, but to just sit there and be unused. I mean, I would be okay with talking about it as a separate item, or take the equivalent of 5% from other monies and where could we put it in play to do that? But I just feel like, that's just my opinion, is that to do it right now with this without really knowing, with them telling us that they can't do it, is setting up part of this to not be successful. And I'm not sure why we would do that, but I am open to the idea conceptually of doing that. I just don't know if we can do it through this avenue. That's my thought.
Okay, thank you. There's no other discussion. We will go ahead and vote on the proposed amendment.
Okay, so this is a vote on the proposed amendment. Councilman Scaringi.
Nay.
Councilwoman Riley.
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns. Sorry, Councilman Burns, can you hear us?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Strawn,
Nay.
Councilman Scanlon,
Nay.
and President Resnetti.
Nay.
Okay, that's 3 ayes, 4 nays, Scaringi, Strawn, Scanlon, and Resnetti.
Okay. So now we're back to our legislation. Councilman Strawn. Actually, you don't have to read that.
I already introduced
Yeah.
it, I think.
Okay, so I see a hand. Councilwoman Freeman, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to say that when I had a lovely conversation with Jessica about this and about Councilwoman Riley's amendment that she just proposed. And I understood what Jess was saying about that, and I also understand the strong desire to ensure that those in greatest need in our community have access to affordable housing. And I did tell Jess on the phone that I would have liked to see a stipulation with some of the money going to extremely low income or very low income families who are the most vulnerable and the most susceptible to experiencing homelessness. While I would have liked to see that stipulation, I did say that I would be supportive of this legislation regardless. So I do plan to vote in support of it, despite not having that stipulation in place.
Thank you. If there's no other discussion, can someone call the question? Oh, Councilwoman Riley.
Yes, thank you, Council President. Again, I am happy to hear from Phil. I did glance back at the email that you support the idea and are open to furthering conversation so we can use our work sessions to really have discussions about prioritizing. Here we are again, housing, which leads to code and all these discussions we keep saying we're going to discuss during work sessions. So I heard that. I heard you, Councilman Strawn. I look forward to this being a priority for this council. And we do have funds that we could allocate to other organizations. And I look forward, again, all of us can go away and do our research, come back with exemplars so that we can do something and be proud of it, since this amendment did fail. Similar to Councilwoman Freeman, there's that same loop. I am still supporting this legislation because, as I said at the press conference, we always say that we're proud of what the land bank does, but the greatest way to show our support is to put money behind it. So now we are doing that. So I am going to do what I can to assist, and I will support, as I said earlier, this legislation. Thank you.
Follow-up question, Madam President.
Thank you. Thank you. Question been called. Roll call, please.
Okay, Councilman Scaringi,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns,
I think this is a great use of the ARPA funds, and I vote aye.
Councilman Strawn,
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
President Resnetti.
Aye.
That's 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, we're moving on to tonight's preferred agenda. Would anyone like to pull anything before we proceed? Councilwoman Freeman?
Thank you, Madam President. Surprise to nobody, there are some pieces of legislation I would like to pull, please, from the preferred agenda. I would like to pull Introductory Ordinance 21-135. Introductory Resolution 21-92, 93, 96, and 97, please. And I can repeat that if you need me to.
Okay, we'll have the clerk introduce the preferred agenda items.
Thank you.
Okay, so the first item on tonight's preferred agenda is Introductory Ordinance 21-128. It's considered in the Finance Committee, and this is an ordinance to amend the 2021 refuse budget to adjust the personal services line.
Discussion? Okay, next.
Next is Introductory Ordinance 21-129. This is considered in Finance, and it's an ordinance to amend the 2021 refuse budget to adjust various expense lines.
Any discussion?
Next, we have Introductory Ordinance 21-130, considered in Finance. This is an ordinance to amend the 2021 capital fund for the purchase of a new vehicle in the Water Department.
Any discussion?
Next, we have Introductory Ordinance 21-131, considered in Finance. And this is an ordinance approving a transfer from the Flood Mitigation Reserve Fund for costs of flood wall, pipes, inspections, and repairs.
Any discussion?
Next, we have Introductory Ordinance 21-132, considered in the Employees Committee. And this is an ordinance amending the code of the City of Binghamton, Chapter 124, Personnel Policies.
Any discussion? Okay.
Next, we have Introductory Ordinance 21-133, considered in Finance. And this is an ordinance to amend the 2021 Parks and Recreation budget for purchase of equipment.
Any discussion?
Next is Introductory Ordinance 21-134, considered in Finance. And this is an ordinance to amend the 2021 budget to allocate American Rescue Plan Act funds and the fund balance for premium pay for essential workers.
Any discussion?
Okay.
Oh, my apologies, Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to say that there were, of course, and continue to be a lot of essential workers that never got to work from home and were told right from the beginning that, oh, you're essential. You are what makes society go, even through a pandemic. And of course, we don't have jurisdiction necessarily over every single essential worker. But to give the designation of essential and not put our money where our mouth is, I think is just a really unfortunate thing, shall we say. So overall, I will say that I'm glad that direct funds to families and to essential workers, this is what ARPA money is about. This and housing, obviously, but this is important. I wish that, it does the essential worker, like the positions that this money is going to are kind of specific, but I would be remiss if I did not vote in favor of supplying essential workers with their what I believe is their fair share. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Okay, so the next three items were pulled. And that brings us down to Introductory Resolution 21-94, considered the Employees Committee. And this is a resolution approving the Binghamton Firefighters Local 729 AFL-CIO IAFF contract for 2021 through 2024.
Any discussion?
Next, we have Introductory Resolution 21-95 concerning the Public Works and Parks Committee. And this is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Shoemaker Consulting Engineers and Land Surveying for surveying services.
Any discussion?
Okay, our next item on the agenda was pulled from the preferred agenda. Actually, our last two items were pulled, so that completes the preferred agenda.
So I will
Madam-
accept. Go ahead.
Motion to, thank you. Motion to accept the preferred agenda as amended.
Second.
No, thank you. Full roll call, please.
Councilman Scaringi,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Aye.
Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Strawn. Sorry, Councilman Strawn, can you hear us?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Scanlon
Aye.
and President Rosnetti.
Aye.
That's 7 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, so we now have a handful of items on the preferred agenda. First one is Introductory Ordinance 21-135, considered in finance. Councilman Strong.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask council for unanimous consideration of Introductory Ordinance 21-135, a bond ordinance from Morabido Stadium upgrades.
Have a second, please.
Second.
Any questions? Councilwoman Frawley, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Friedman.
Thank you, Madam President. I pulled this from the preferred agenda for a couple of reasons. The first one is that so far we heard from constituents who are not in favor of this. And you all know, I say this all the time, I don't like voting on legislation the same day as the public hearing, because we're openly admitting essentially that listening to our constituents isn't going to change our opinion in any way. That doesn't make me feel comfortable in general, but I'm also not just doing this based on principle, just to prove a point. I rarely do things just to prove a point, but this also, okay, so this is almost $3 million in improvements. And I understand the point has been made that these funds are purportedly necessary in order to keep the Rumble Ponies as the team in this stadium, to bring the stadium up to code, or I don't know, up to snuff, up to the regulations that are required, that I understand are coming from top down. We don't have anything to do with those. I think that the Rumble Ponies are an extremely valuable asset. We're talking a lot about the stadium district, and so I think it's important to critically consider what kind of asset the team is. However, I want to pull up there was an email that was sent with the specific, oh wait, here, I have it here. Okay, so the specific requirement we were asking for, or I was asking, and I think some of my colleagues as well were asking for, okay, $3 million is a lot of, almost $3 million, $2.7 million is a lot of money. So what specifically is that going toward? And we have a list of things, but it's so far none of it is specifically listed as costing that much money. And I know we haven't gotten to contracts and things like that. I understand that. But to put, well, $3.1 million in the, is the figure that's quoted in this amendment here that I'm looking at. And I don't feel comfortable voting yet on this, given the fact that we had the public hearing tonight and the people that called in were not in favor of this. And also the document that we got is, I don't know, just kind of a vague list of things. I would like more time to do more research on this because it is such a large amount of money. And again, it is not lost on me that all of these big ticket items are coming after we moved that $12 million of ARPA funding from encumbered to unencumbered. I know it's not a one-to-one translation, but again, I keep that in the back of my head that, okay, is this kind of in a way what we're spending the ARPA money on? So given all of that, I'm going to make a motion to hold this over.
Second.
Councilman Strawn, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. I'm not sure what the, if we're going to hold this over, what that means, but I don't want to overstate it. I mean, we've been known about this for quite a while now. I mean, we need to get more details. We did get the list of things. So we did get that. So what was stated earlier isn't actually true, that we did get a list of things. And if you look at things like playing field, dugouts, bullpens, field, I mean, the morning track, the facilities, the weight room, hitting, pitching, tunnels, blah, blah, blah. It's not hard to see, maybe we need to get dollars with the items, but the fact is we might have to now have a special meeting, because this vote, I don't want to overstate this, but this is really to keep the Rumble Ponies or not. It's that simple. And the stadium district master plan, I mean, I don't know, throw that part of that out the window if we lose the team, but it certainly puts a big hole in that whole plan and all the things that are going into that. I'm not going to be one that's going to vote in essence to lose the team right now, because we've come this far, and I realize you can keep putting dollars and whatever, but all of these things are not amenities from the standpoint of fan experience and things like that. Everything in here is from Major League Baseball, and we've known that for a long time. So I'm not going to vote to not have the Rumble Ponies, and we'll have to find out from Ken Frank or the mayors if this special meeting is going to have to happen like ASAP to not lose the team. But I'm not going to vote to lose the team. So I'm just saying that's really what it comes down to.
Thank you. Councilman Scanlon, I think I'm seeing your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. As Councilman Strawn said, this is a vote yes or no to keep the team. And there's no ARPA funds involved here. It's bonding. So we have to be clear about that. But Madam President, since this is held over because it was seconded, I would recommend we have a special meeting on this to keep things moving forward. I don't want to hesitate at this. I don't want to take a chance to lose the baseball team in town. So I'm requesting a special meeting at this point. Thank you.
Okay. So this has been Councilman Friedman.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that never did I say I was going to vote against this. I specifically started my comment by saying I understand that these are requirements that are coming from above. I was the one who brought up the Stadium District Master Plan. So I don't know why wanting to get more specifics about where the $3 million is going somehow got translated into I don't want the Rumble Ponies here. And I just wanted to clarify, I'm not against this, but how many times, every single meeting, we keep saying we want specific information. Our fiduciary responsibilities are to have oversight of where the city's finances are going. So I don't know how that somehow got translated into I don't want the Rumble Ponies here. I want to vote no on the Rumble Ponies today. So I think that was a little bit of a mischaracterization of where I'm coming from and the concerns that I'm raising here.
I just want to say, I'm not saying you're saying that you don't want them. I was just saying that this vote is in essence that. That's all I'm saying. So we have, and the timing of it is going to, because of the lease. I'm not saying that I did not say you said that. I'm just saying that this vote as a whole is for that. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, is there any other comment? All right, we'll have to go ahead and schedule a special meeting. Oh, and I'm proposing 6 p.m. tomorrow.
I guess instead of doing a roll call, would anyone like to let us know if they can't make it?
Well, I just have a question about that. I mean, I don't know if the information that we require to make as educated of a decision as possible will be available in that time frame. And also that is within 24 hours. So I don't think that time will work.
Friday, 6 p.m.
Will we be able to get that information in that time frame?
Councilman Scanlon.
I would defer to Ken Frank if we can hold that meeting tomorrow night. If Ken's still on there.
Say that again, Councilman Scanlon. I didn't hear you.
I would defer to Ken Frank to see if that meeting is allowed to be held tomorrow night before we move the meeting.
Councilman, this is Maggie. You do need 24 hours notice for a meeting, so
Open
it
meetings
can't
laws.
be before 8 p.m. tomorrow.
Okay.
Councilwoman Riley.
Thank you, Council President. I think even Councilman Strawn mentioned that if we had monetary amounts near the items, that would help us better understand how the money will be allocated. That's it. That's the question. So we would like more information. Again, repeat, playing that same tape over and over. And if we can have that, then I think, and again, if it's publicly available, then that would be great.
I believe we
have a list, but
right. Go ahead, Councilwoman Freeman. Go ahead, finish your thought.
That wasn't Freeman, that was Councilwoman Riley.
Okay, go ahead.
Who?
Go ahead, finish your thought, Councilwoman Riley.
Okay. Yes, we have a list. And remember, when we talked through that list, some of the things were things we desired to add for user experience, which is great. But again, if we have concerned residents about the allocation of resources, and we know we have estimates as to how much certain things will cost to bring them up to meet the specifications, the accreditation list, then we should have that information as well. Thank you.
Any other comment? Councilman Scanlon.
Yeah, we all have the list of what's needed. And I think if the meeting's Friday night, that would allow time to gather information. I'm not sure where they're going to get more than the detail that's listed has been provided to us. And I think 2 days is plenty of time to figure out what the questions they need answered. Thank you.
So I will propose Friday, 5:15 maybe. I'll try that.
Okay, so is there anyone on council that's not available Friday at 5:15 p.m. for a special business meeting? Seeing none, we'll announce that meeting.
Thank you. Moving on to introductory resolution 21-92, considered an MPA. Councilman Scanlon.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask for a unanimous consideration of introductory resolution 21-92. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease agreement with the city of Binghamton Water Street Development Corporation for the new Water Street parking garage.
May I have a second? Can I have a second?
I seconded.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilwoman Freeman.
Thank you, Madam President. I wanted to pull this from the preferred agenda because although we did make some amendments to the language establishing the development corporation, I voted nay on that piece of legislation because I did not like the way the language that was there. So since I don't feel comfortable with that language, I don't feel comfortable authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the LDC, whose language I just voted against. So thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other comments, can someone call the question, please?
Call the question, Madam President.
Question to call, roll call.
Councilman Scaringi,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Nay.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Nay.
Councilman Burns, sorry, Councilman Burns, that was an aye, correct? You're muted right now, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Strawn?
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon?
Aye.
President Rusnetti?
Aye.
Okay, so that's 5 ayes, 2 nays, Riley and Friedman.
Moving on to introductory resolution 21-93, considering finance. Councilman Strawn.
Thank you, Madam President. Ask council for unanimous consideration of introductory resolution 21-93, a resolution authorizing the application for and acceptance of the fiscal year 2021 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments? Councilwoman Friedman.
Thank you, Madam President. More patrol officers do not reduce crime and they only increase surveillance. So I do not feel comfortable funding positions that will, in essence, create more surveillance. And I don't feel confident will reduce crime. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not, can someone call a question, please?
Call the question, Madam President.
Question to call, roll call.
Councilman Scaringi,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Nay.
Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Strawn,
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
President Rusnetti.
Aye.
That's 6 ayes, 1 nay, Friedman.
Next up, we have introductory resolution 21-96, considering MPA. Councilman Scanlon.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask for unanimous consideration of resolution 21-96. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a second development sublease operation and management agreement with Evans Street Baseball, Inc.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councilwoman Friedman.
Thank you, Madam President. Given the fact that our work session was yesterday and this was presented to us yesterday, then expedited, and we are also waiting to receive more information about the renovations at the baseball stadium. I would also like to make a motion to hold this over as well.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll add that to our special meeting for Friday, 5:15 p.m. And lastly, we have introductory resolution 21-97, considering finance. Councilman Strong.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask council for unanimous consideration of introductory resolution 21-97, a resolution to accept $50,000 from the NYS DCJS Anti-Gun Violence Award.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I'll call the question, Madam President.
Question to call. Roll call.
Councilman Scarinci,
Aye.
Councilwoman Riley,
Aye.
Councilwoman Friedman,
Nay.
Councilman Burns,
Aye.
Councilman Strawn,
Aye.
Councilman Scanlon,
Aye.
President Rusnetti.
Aye.
Okay, that's 6 ayes, 1 nay. Friedman.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We will now move on to council member comments. And tonight we will start with District 4, that is Councilwoman Freeman.
Really, I don't think we just started with me recently, but that's okay.
I think I'm correct. No?
I mean, it's fine.
Oh, wait,
It was for last council meeting. District 4 started last council meeting. I closed.
okay, so we can start with Councilman Burns. How's that?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, Councilman Burns, you're up.
I'm speechless tonight. Thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you. Okay, Councilman Strawn, he had to leave and he had to run. He did say to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. All right, so next we have Councilman Scanlon.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm not sure I get anything meaningful to this meeting tonight, so I'm just going to say happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Scaringi.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to tell everyone stay warm. I want to thank everybody on the body for the good discussion that we had tonight across a number of the pieces of legislation. I do want to thank Code for a lot of help with a few properties this week, and I also want to thank the police department and the chief and the assistant chief for helping to very, very quickly get out some important information to some residents and some neighbors that occurred. And travel safely over the weekend and into the next week, and have a very happy Thanksgiving and stay warm.
Thank you. And up we have Councilwoman Riley.
Thank you, Council President. Again, I echo the sentiments of Councilman Scaringi. We had a very lively discussion, and I hope we continue to do so. We have tossed around several months of discussion about code and housing. We've heard about ethics. We definitely need to talk about reassessment. So our work sessions will be fruitful and again, allow us to lean upon each other to come up with what best represents our constituents. So I'm excited about that. As we approach Thanksgiving, I want to give a shout out to everyone, but also asking all of us to be mindful of those that are not as fortunate as we are. There is the annual BHS food Thanksgiving dinner that will be happening on November 25th. There is a phone number on the school district website for those that may be interested. If you don't have a meal, they will be passing out meals, and shout out to those teenagers. I have one in my home that will be volunteering to make sure this is a success, as well as the faculty and staff. Similarly, there are several churches who have sent messages to all of us who are also packing up meals and boxes for families. If you are interested in donating a turkey or donating canned goods, we know Trinity AME, which is actually in Councilman Scaringi's district, and we also know NOMA in the 3rd district. They are collecting items to build boxes and packages for families. So if you are willing to donate, or if you are a family in need, please reach out to either of these entities. Again, I am thankful for the ability to work with such wonderful people around this Zoom screen. And I'm thankful for what we have been called to do. Although it can be quite interesting at times, I look forward to the year ahead, to the discussion about the calendar, and just doing what we can do, again, to represent those we've been elected to serve. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we are back to you, Councilwoman Friedman.
Oh my gosh, the penultimate finale, of course, Council President, you will have the last word. But I also wanted to echo the sentiments of Councilman Scringy and Councilwoman Riley that we did have a lively discussion. You all know these are my favorite kind of meetings, when we can have discussions and honor and bounce off each other's ideas. I always appreciate that. There was one thing that I wanted to talk about, and I do feel like I tend to mention things like this a lot, where we have to be careful what we call a personal attack, because there are sometimes personal attacks, which are things that people say, whether it be our constituents or, members of the public, that come at us personally, meaning, when I think of a personal attack, it's maybe an attack on somebody's appearance, or if somebody says a slur or makes a stereotype, right? That would be a personal attack. And we can't confuse that with accountability for our actions. And especially, we are held to a higher standard as elected officials, that we are in the public eye and we are making big, important decisions on behalf of tens of thousands of people. And so we have to be careful. We can't write off any kind of criticism as a personal attack that therefore should not be considered valid. And I'll admit, sometimes as an elected official, I do things that I get criticized for, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? That was not cool, or I could have done that better. Or, sometimes I vote in a certain way and my constituents call me up. Usually they don't call me up. They'll make a post on the internet criticizing me, and I'm like, okay, right. That's the criticism that I signed up for in becoming an elected official. So I think personal attacks are not acceptable, but I think we need to be careful about what actually constitutes a personal attack and what is valid criticism of a public figure in the in the public eye. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was, I'll just be real brief about this, but I was fortunate to be able to go to this incredible conference this past weekend, and I learned a lot about different proposals to improve community safety, creative, interesting proposals. And I was able to network with other elected officials around the state and around the region. So I'm really excited to flesh out those ideas. You will be hearing more from me. And of course, I wanted to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And while I think back to Indigenous Peoples Day, where we take a step back and acknowledge that Christopher Columbus was a villain to a lot of people. And we have to take a step back and acknowledge that we are on unceded Onondaga land. Thanksgiving is a contentious time for Indigenous people that still live on this land, that while we can be thankful for many, many things, it's a complicated holiday, to say the least. I recently found out that November 26th is National, it's Native American Heritage Day. And I think it's important to keep Indigenous people in mind, because they are, we often forget about them in American holidays like Thanksgiving. So I did want to shout that out. But I hope everybody has a safe and healthy holiday break. If you get a holiday break, if you're fortunate enough for that, and if not, I hope that you have, a day of rest sometime coming up soon. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Friedman. Thank you for your comments. Definitely, it's important to be reminding folks, about what is a personal attack. Certainly in the public eye, we get attacked sometimes for our voting records, right? Our view on certain policies, and it's part of the course. So thank you for bringing that up, because certainly calling women hateful gender specific terms, then that would be a personal attack. Or bringing their children into it, that would be a personal attack. So thank you for bringing that up. Actually, I really appreciate that. I think most of us are ready, or we know that we have to sometimes take that, whatever it is, from constituents who would disagree with us. But yes, there is a line, and I appreciate the opportunity for you to, bringing that up, and also me chiming in regarding that. For another example, people calling us scum of the earth when they're calling in, or dirt in people's shoes. Yeah, you're right. We need to be very mindful about what our personal attacks. So thank you for that. Additionally, well, first, I wanted a big shout out and a big thank you to this organization called HEPA. It's Chapter 77, and that stands for American Hellenic Foundation and Progressive Association. These are folks that just held their second annual coat drive here in our community. They were able to work directly with the schools to identify what children needed as far as coats go and what sizes they needed. And they were able to donate 150 brand new coats to 4 schools. 3 were in the city of Binghamton, MacArthur, Roosevelt, and Woodrow Wilson. So a big thank you to them for everything that they do. They do work hard to bring awareness to the needs of those who are disadvantaged and in need, and truly believe that no child should have to worry about being warm or not being warm during this winter. And this is actually the largest and oldest American-based Greek heritage membership organization. So I'm just wanted to say thank you for doing that. 150 brand new coats to students in MacArthur, Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, just 2 days ago. The other thing too is I wanted to remind folks as we're talking about Thanksgiving and the need, as one of you mentioned, and that still exists. A friendly competition is, in addition to all the wonderful places that Councilwoman Riley mentioned about folks who can donate. There is that friendly competition at Government Plaza to collect much needed items for chow. And I believe all those items can be dropped off up until the 19th. There are barrels in each building. This is the state office building, county office building, and city hall that I'm talking about. So there's just another way that we can participate. And I would encourage us, if we're down here this way, to participate. I guess with that, I will say I'm very thankful to be here to work with all of you. I appreciate everything that we all do, and stay safe. Have a wonderful night and have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I will take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Meeting adjourned.